Well, welcome to Phil Trethowan joining us today on Screen Careers. Thank you for joining us, Phil. And your current position at the moment is executive producer on a film set. I wonder if you could explain to us what responsibilities come with that role.
Well, I think the first thing I'd say, Lloyd, is that the responsibilities, they kind of begin before the set, because it's your responsibility to get shows commissioned and get films made. So that is obviously the development process, which starts sometimes many years before the actual production. And how that will come about, that will be myself and my colleague Ben. We will work with writers to come up with ideas for films or for TV series. Sometimes we'll work with them and ideas will emerge organically between ourselves. On other occasions, a writer might come to us with the germ of an idea or with an idea for a script, and if we're excited by it, we'll grab it and go on that journey with them. So that can be quite a long process, of part of which, of course, is getting the funding. If it's a conventional TV production, the funding tends to come obviously mainly from the broadcaster, but increasingly you're having to find additional funding from elsewhere. Time was broadcasters would pay 100% for things. Now you're looking for co-productions, you're looking for financing from, well, things like Welsh Government that you will know of. And then again, for film financing, that's very different. But throughout that period, as you're patchworking the financing together, you're also working on the script, developing the script, because obviously none of this can happen without a great script, can it? It's the beginning and end of it, really. And so you'll be working hand in hand with the writer to kind of nurture their vision and to get the best out of them. And I think that nurturing role is really then what happens once you do go into production, because I think as the exec producer, you're the person who's been in the process every step of the way. So you, more than anyone, know what is in the writer's head. You feel you understand the best iteration of that film or that TV series, and you then kind of shepherd that process and make sure, the key thing then is making sure that all the departments, who all quite rightly think they're the most important department, and as they should, but that everyone is singing from the same hymn sheet, so that together as a unit we're making one singular vision, a film that is then more than the sum total of its parts. The other aspect of that's the editorial aspect. The other aspect of that is, of course, the budget and the financing, which you work hand in hand with a line producer on, such as the lovely Lloyd here. And that is to make sure that you don't overspend, because clearly you have a budget for any show. And if you overspend, then no one's going to give you any more money in the future, are they? But also it's making sure that money is spent wisely, because again, every department will again quite rightly feel that they should have the most money to spend, but you've got to make those editorial choices. You've got to make the choice that, I don't know what it is, that we don't need a stunt here, we're better spending our money on 100 extras over here, or whatever it is. You're balancing the money to make sure that you're delivering the vision of the film.
Wonderful. Phil, you left school as a very young man to join the TV and industry at some point in your life. What were those? What was that career progression for you like? How did Phil Trethowan make his first move into the film and TV industry?
Well, I'd always wanted to work in drama in some capacity. When I was at university, I was really interested in the theatre, because that was something that you could do. You could put on a play. And so when I left uni, I felt initially I wanted to work in the theatre. I swiftly realised that there weren't many jobs in the theatre, and the jobs that there were not very well paid. So I turned my attention. My passion was drama, telling stories. So I just turned my attention TV as another means of doing that. So I was lucky enough to get onto a graduate trainee scheme at Carlton that was part of the ITV group before it was just called ITV. So showing my age there, but got onto that graduate scheme, and the idea of that was that you were given experience throughout the whole broadcaster in all the different genres, factual, comedy, everything. But then I kind of really knuckled down when I went into the drama department. And then out of that, they offered me a job just as a runner, a runner and researcher, which is, of course, how everyone really needs to be prepared to start. So I was just, a kind of general dog's body in the drama department, but from taking a keen interest and giving people's notes on scripts, whether they wanted them or not, kind of thing. As people start to respect your opinion a bit, and eventually I got asked to script edit a show. From then, I did a lot of script editing. I did a lot of story editing, storylining across all sorts of shows, from like crime shows like Vice on ITV through to soap operas like Emmerdale and Crossroads, and so a very broad range of shows. That was script editing and storylining, and then worked up to producing. From producing, that's a whole different ball game. Then that's you've got to grow up quickly. And then from producing to execing, and then where I am now, which is running my own company.
That is one big career progression, really, in regards to moving from script, from editorial side into producing, and onwards to exec producing. Should you possibly not come from that, or have that kind of interest within the editorial side of things, to move towards producing and exec producing? Is there any other career pathways that one could take to move towards those?
100%, Lloyd, 100%. Going through the script route is just one route to producing. I think there are two clear paths. There's that route, and the other route is going through the floor, as it were. So that's working on a production, starting as an office runner or a floor runner on a show, then work up. You'd try to get into the AD department. You'd be a third AD, maybe a second, then a first, and that route can lead you. People who come through that route, they have a really great global knowledge of what makes a production tick, because they're complicated beasts, aren't they, productions? But so people who go through that route tend to be really on top of that, and then tends to be from AD, like yourself, Lloyd. You went from ADing to associate producing, line producing, and then from there, yes, you could go on to exec producing, no doubt about that.
And then now, Phil, for new entrants and a new audience listening in and wanting to look for their first break in television, or their first foot into the door of our industry, what tips and advice could you give to our audience today listening in?
I think the main advice would be what you have to be throughout your TV career, which is tenacious, asking around, just don't be scared to ask, because there's there was so many opportunities left, right and centre. It feels like a closed door, I imagine, a lot of the time. It did for me, but actually, there's so many shows being made these days. Obviously with COVID, it's taken a pause, but there will be next year. It'll all gear back up again, and I think it's just is a case of getting your foot in the door. Don't be precious about what you're doing. Don't be precious about whether you're just making the tea or whatever it is. You just want to get in, and then once you're in, you get to know people. People get to know you, respect you, and then you can you'll start to work your way up. But I would say, even aside from that, I would say even while you're trying to get into shows and films that are up and running, I think the great thing today is because of technology. I think that there's very little stopping people from making their own short films, for example. you know, when I was younger, you needed proper kit to do that. You would need access to, you know, proper sound gear, proper camera gear. But now, you know, you can pretty much, you know, you can make pretty good standard films with iPhones and laptops these days. I've watched many of them through some of the work that we do with new talent. So I think that'd be the advice: is be tenacious, but also, you know, just be creative, you know. And of course, to write a script, well, you need a pen and a paper, don't you? So nothing's stopping you doing that, is it?
Well, listen, Phil, before I bring this wonderful moment with you today on Screen Careers to an end, and thank you for your time, I would just love to ask you that question of what your career highlights have been thus far, with many to come, I'm sure, and name a few productions that you're most proud to have been working on.
I guess the production I remember most fondly in terms of enjoyment was Being Human, but poster, which is behind Lloyd's head there. Actually, he did worked on many series of that, and that was, you know, that had such a camaraderie on set. You know, the cast were predominantly, you know, youngsters up for a laugh, and so were the crew. So in terms of camaraderie and fun is Being Human. Also, it's always a joy to work on things that you would watch yourself, and Being Human was an example of that. If I hadn't worked on it, I still would have been a fan. So that, you know, that's always kind of like the icing on the cake with any production, because of course it's not always the case, is it? But I think I take huge pleasure from what I'm doing at the moment at Black Light, which is we're kind of specializing is probably too grand a word, but we're very focused on new talent, and that does come with a lot of rewards, really, bringing through that new talent. We run a scheme with Channel 4 called On the Edge 4 Stories, which some of the viewers may be familiar with. If you're not, Google it. And that's really rewarding, I think, for me, because to bring people through into the industry who may not have had the opportunity, feels like it's just personally really rewarding to see that.
That's quite interesting. Before I do close this wonderful moment with you, Phil, then could you elaborate a little bit more on that new talent? Would that be actors, or is that directing, writing? What role?
Yeah, specifically 4 Stories. That is the show is called On the Edge. The scheme is called 4 Stories. A bit confusing. But if you go onto our website or the Channel 4 website, you'll find information there. It's a scheme that we've run every year for the past 3 years, and it's specifically targeting new writing and directing talent. It's open application. The only criteria is that you've never had a broadcast credit, so it really is open to anyone. And we look for 3 writers and 3 directors to make 3 standalone half-hour films with, you know, high production value. You know, they're decent budgets for shorts. So people, you know, we encourage people to be ambitious. All you have to do to enter that, at the moment, it's because of COVID, the films we were supposed to have made this year, we now have to make them next year. So, you know, there won't be another scheme until after that. So obviously COVID's put a bit of a spanner in the works, but the opportunity will arise again. Yeah, as I said, it's open application. Last year we had over 1,500 scripts and over 500 short films sent in. But we really do encourage it. It is open to everyone.
And showing how important it is to run these kind of programs and schemes within our industry, and to make some wonderful films and television series as we're making them. So Phil, we thank you from Screen Careers today for joining us and from bringing some great, wonderful projects to the screen as well, especially On the Edge. I think that is really groundbreaking and wonderful for new talent to have such opportunities at that level. So congratulations to you with that. But more than anything, Phil, thank you very much. Diolch yn fawr for joining us here today on Screen Careers.